Hello and welcome to another edition of the CFB Super Show. I am your host, Walt of YFC, aka Dub-Deuce85, joined as always by my co-host and partner in crime, Pete Cole. We're going to be doing things slightly different tonight. We're going to cover the showdown, which takes place tomorrow between Virginia and Miami. We're also going to break down that 3-game slate on Friday on DraftKings. So we'll be talking about 4 football games in all, give you guys our thoughts, talk about PrizePicks, any bets we like, and then tomorrow night we'll be back to break down the 12-game main slate. So Pete's here with me tonight. He's got a lot going on as always. Pete, how you doing?
What up? What's going on? Yeah, a lot going on, but still MLB playoffs coming up. Yankees playing tonight. They're down right now though, but ready to talk some college football. So we've been successful so far, so let's just keep it going. So I'm ready to talk about it.
Yes, sir. If you guys are watching live, thank you. You can put anything, questions, comments, concerns in the right-hand side of your chat there, and we'll get those answered as we go. So we'll just jump right into it and talk about Virginia versus Miami. This is going to be the showdown slate. I did do a write-up on that earlier. Right now I have it as Miami -6 with a 63 over-under. There's injuries we have to worry about in this game, so we'll kind of talk about it, instead of doing like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, we'll talk about captain and utility options. But we'll start with injuries. Derek King, he missed last game. It looks like he's questionable. It doesn't sound like he's going to play to me as of right now, but we know that could change. Tyler Van Dyke would be in line to get the start there. He did pretty well. Jake Garcia, maybe a little bit of touches there as well. And then on the Virginia side, Jelani Woods, the tight end that we really like. I really liked. I think you're on him too. Who did so well. He has a boot on his foot at practice apparently. So still not sure with what that's going to happen, if he's going to play or not. And then Keyshawn Thompson, their former, it's kind of a backup QB, a weapon that they use for running, passing, all kinds of things, receiving. He's also playing with a fractured wrist, which is just nuts that he's going to forego any surgery and continue to play through that. Which really makes me quite fearful of him. He's been a solid option for them all season long, but it looks like that's the reason why he was kind of, fantasy points, receptions, yardage kind of down last slate, because with a fractured wrist, what can you really do, I guess? You definitely can't throw the ball, but I guess you can still catch it. So with that being said, we do have to monitor that information because that is going to be a big deal. Obviously, if King misses, we're not going to get a discount though, since Van Dyke, and Garcia both played last week. They're both priced up. So we'll have to make a decision on if we're going to play them or not. And then with Jelani Woods possibly being out, his backup, Grant Mish, is only 1K. He would certainly come into play. So let's start and talk about captain options, Pete. Who are you looking at for captain here? Is it Brennan Armstrong, or do you got somebody super secret?
Yeah, it looks like the popular play is going to be Armstrong. I'm still trying to call this up. With King being out, and I'm assuming he's going to be out. For cash, you always like to go Armstrong. Just because, he's got to be a lock in your lineup. So I guess the big question is, do you play him at captain or not? in cash, I like to play the quarterback and captain. Especially, I think this is definitely a matchup that favors Armstrong. But in GPPs, I like to go somewhere else. So I think as we kind of talk right tonight, I think we should be able to come up with a decent GPP captain that's beside Armstrong. This can be a little bit under-owned. So just give me a second to call this up here. But I mean, I think Armstrong is definitely should be your cash captain. I mean, Miami's 93rd against the pass. They're allowing 246 yards per game. They're allowing quarterbacks to almost like 28, 29 fantasy points a game, running game, Virginia. So, I mean, Armstrong is definitely play for cash. But for GDP, is there somebody else we can find, like a diamond in the rough? We can find like a Will Mallory, somebody that hasn't been doing much. I mean, somewhere else we can go with GPPs. That's my big question I want to find tonight.
Yeah. Brandon, I mean, Armstrong definitely getting popular, like you said, especially with the Miami uncertainty. It's easy to pay him. I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable paying like the price on Van Dyke, even though that Virginia secondary has been pretty bad. Armstrong, the running game of Virginia has been horrible. So he hasn't even really been a dual threat this year. He does have 2 rushing touchdowns, but all his yardage has come through the air. He has 1,700 plus yardage through the air in 4 games, 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So very good there. We've already watched Peyton Thorne of the Spartans carve these guys up, 344 and 4 touchdown. And then we know back in week 1, Bryce Young, he did it as well. He was the one 344 and 4. Sorry, Thorne 261 and 4. So they both threw 4 touchdowns. So I'd expect Armstrong to really do some damage here. His rushing yardage is suffering because he's taking so many sacks. He's getting sacked at a pretty high clip. So rushing yardage isn't going to be there for him. But yeah, very solid option. As far as other captain options, I kind of wrote this up as more of like a cash single entry. So it's definitely him. However, I think there is some other plays, but you're still going to have to pay up for the ones that I like. I mean, you mentioned Mallory, who I definitely like as a utility play. But I think if I was going to fade Armstrong, I would just go down for a couple, 3,000 less and go to Davian Wicks, who 14-1 at captain, 9-4 at utility. I'm a really big fan of his. He's kind of taken that Lavelle Davis role from the offense that he had for so many years. Really high, kind of a high leverage, high upside GPP move here because people are probably going to be playing Wicks in their utility to pair with Armstrong, but yeah, they're not going to be running him in their captain. And he has an opportunity to score just as much, if not more than Armstrong, especially if, he gets 8, 9, 10 catches, 150 plus yards, a couple touchdowns, then he would outscore him in that case, especially if with all these injuries to, some other Virginia pass catchers. Numbers on Wicks. Just kind of the number 1 guy for Armstrong. He's been on the field for 54 of 90 total snaps against Wake Forest. I've been getting into snaps more, so you might hear me talk about that more the next couple of days, but that's a lot. Ran around on 43 of those snaps. So when he's on the field, he's running routes. Stat line of 8 catches on 13 targets for 114 yards and a touchdown. So very solid, very reliable. I wrote in there, Jelani Woods banged up. He's got a freaking boot on. Keaton Thomas has a cast. Those are 2 main pass catchers that they may not have. And even if they do play, how effective will they do? So I could see Wicks' targets being, 15 plus in this one. If it turns into a shootout, we know Miami quarterbacks have shown capable of lighting them up. We know Virginia gets lit up. We saw Howell do it, a couple other guys. So this is going to turn into a shootout. And I like Wicks a lot. I don't think Miami has the personnel to really keep him from burning them. So he's a guy that I could see running at captain instead of Armstrong, save a couple thousand and still, if he gets within 5 to 8 fantasy points of Armstrong and captain, I think you could really do some damage on the slate.
Yeah, I agree, especially with Jelani Woods, he was seen in a walking boot the last week, we know. So I'm assuming he's out. So, you got Billy Kemp there.
It's a quick turnaround for them, too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Billy Kemp, who dropped a bunch of passes, he's still, at least Billy Kemp has seen double-digit targets, but I definitely agree with the Wicks call. I think Wicks is a back-to-back games of 100 yards on the Virginia end. We can't be looking at the running backs. So if you're not going to run Armstrong, which is a smart play for cash, I definitely see going down. Yeah, I think Wicks is probably your top play on Virginia. Yeah, definitely. There's nobody else besides. Kemp, I'm not gonna. Rashaan Henry. He blew up the last game, so who knows if he's even gonna how many targets he's even gonna see. So yeah, Armstrong, I think cash, and then your Wicks call for GBP or even cash, I guess. Because Miami, we don't know what's going on in Miami yet, right? We don't know if King's out. I'm assuming King is out. and we're assuming that you got three quarterbacks. So you're assuming Travis Van Dyke is going to be the main is going to start, but you got Jake Garcia sitting there, right? And then you got other guys. But another sneaky play also, I guess I'm probably getting ahead of myself, is Jalen Knighton's coming back for Miami after a 4-game suspension, and he was behind Cameron last year, and he shared time with Don Chaney, and we know Chaney's out with ACL this year. So and Cameron Harris has not exactly been lighting up the boards. Harris is just not a good running back, I don't think. And so I like Jalen Knighton. I'm not sure how much running he's going to get, but I like Knighton to actually be a sneaky play also for Miami. I jumped ahead a little bit there.
But. No, you're good. The price, I was actually going to ask, because on the Miami side, as far as like running a captain or a contrarian captain from Miami, I think it's probably not going to be, there's not really any Miami guys you want to run a captain, but it probably would be Harris. But I did write that up about Knighton. Yeah. Coming off the 4-game suspension. And I even put in the chat earlier that I thought it may right away be like a 60-40, 70-30. So Harris is definitely going to lose touches. I will say this Virginia rush defense hasn't been, their defense in general hasn't been very good. So Harris could definitely do damage, but at the same time, you're paying almost $15K a captain for him, which isn't really cost effective. That would be like a GPP move at best. If he still sees 15, 18 touches though, he could do well. I know last week he had 10, 102, but that was against Central Connecticut, and that was the first half. So obviously, we can't read into that too much, but you're right. He hasn't looked, even though he's been bell cowing it, he just hasn't looked that good. Yeah, we all used him a couple weekends ago when he was a bell cow, and he really didn't come through. So I think Knighton, depending on how rusty he could be, he could come in and take, 30 to 40% of the carries right away. So I definitely agree there. Is there any other Miami guys you would look at captain, or are you kind of just, on Armstrong and then maybe Wicks or who else?
The only guy is to go all the way down to like Will Mallory. He's only 3.9. Okay. And he's only seen 12 targets on the year, 8 receptions, no touchdowns. But I still think that we were expecting so much from Mallory this year. Miami's like tight end and all that. So I still think Mallory will end up at the end of the year with decent numbers. But if you're going to run GPPs only, I have no problem throwing Mallory in that 3.9. But then you can pretty much get anybody else you want in your lineup to Mallory at captain. And Mallory could, he could score 2 touchdowns, especially if King doesn't start and we got to run back with a Tyler Van Dyke or Jake Garcia, something like that. And, he could end up being a security blanket for these guys. So Mallory was the only one I would even look at. Cameron, but Cameron's expensive. I've kind of soured on Cameron over the last few weeks. And, it's pretty much it.
Yeah. So captain, really condensed pool, 2 or 3 guys that we like. And then at utility, you can go a lot of different ways. So we'll stay with you. So quarterback, like we said, is probably going to be Tyler Van Dyke. He looked pretty good. He threw for 270, 10 completions, 3 total touchdowns. Didn't have to do a lot. And then Jay Garcia came in the second half and threw 11 for 14 for 147 and 2. So, and he also had a 45-yard rush that was really impressive. I saw online. I think the focus would be Van Dyke here, right? In a game that'll be close, maybe Garcia won't get an entire half, but at the same time, he looks so good. Maybe they give both a shot. So I'm a little leery of using these guys. In some of the showdowns, I've been using like a 1 quarterback because the second quarterback's going into a bad spot. But then at the end of the day, that second quarterback ends up scoring enough to be on optimal. So I do need to start playing 2 quarterbacks in my lineups here on Showdown. But this is one, again, where I feel a little antsy about it. I know a lot of people are going to end up playing a Miami QB, but if Van Dyke doesn't get a full run, it might be kind of tough. However, Virginia's defense is so bad, he might only need 2.5 quarters of work, split with Garcia to get value. So do you have a preference of the 2, or is it kind of just if Van Dyke starts, that's where you would go?
It's Garcia. It's probably Van Dyke because, you saw all fall camp that they were deadlocked as for the QB2 job. So they're even. So that's what scared me. I could see definitely both of them playing. And who knows? Maybe King ends up playing. So this could be the one showdown. I think you're right. I'm going to only end up with 1 quarterback, even in cash. I'm not taking that chance unless we hear more tomorrow, which I doubt we will. That Van Dyke's a starter, and he's going to get a full run. But what's the spread here? I'm seeing the spread is like as if King is playing. So
do you have the late spread in front of you? I had Miami -6 is what I see here.
And that's what I'm reading. And that's kind of like as if King is playing. So I don't. I mean, I'm not taking Tyler Index numbers against Central Florida. So none of that nonsense. I'm probably just gonna stay away from quarterbacks, and then if I get burned, I get burned. So be it. So this is a weird showdown, especially when you get when you have such an uncertainty at quarterback. You kind of want to end up playing GPPs, or then just it's kind of like just being smarter on your bankroll. I wouldn't get crazy on the showdown. It's all about Burn. It's all about Armstrong.
Yeah, you really want to target, for Armstrong and your captain for your main, and then you really want to go with the pass catchers of Virginia because their running backs are so non-existent. Papa is still hurt. I know Hollins was getting some love last slate that Virginia was on, but he's just okay. At the end of the day, they just don't run enough. So, Wicks is easy. If Woods is out, and Thompson's beat up, Rashaan Henry at 4-2. I know you mentioned he kind of blew up last week, and he did. His price kind of dropped because he was actually higher priced than Woods last week. And now he's lower priced. So 4-2, I definitely want to look at him. He's pretty appealing. He did play the most snaps. Sean told you I'm in the snap thing right now. All non-QB. So QB O-line played more, but all skill position guys outside of them, he had 57 snaps. So he was on the field the most. He also ran the routes the most, 50 snaps. So he's definitely on the field a lot at 4-2. He was targeted 10 times. He only caught 4 of those for 52 yards. So it wasn't a huge fantasy day by any means, but at 4-2 in showdown, you can get away with guys kind of underperforming a little bit. You really need to put those cheap guys on the field who are going to see a lot of snaps. So Henry at 4-2 is definitely a guy I'm likely going to be running with Wicks, and Armstrong is kind of my trio there. I like Kemp at 7-4. It might be hard for me to get there. He caught 7 of his 10 targets last week for 50 yards. You see he's getting a lot of the short yardage stuff, kind of a safety valve. He also ran routes on 33 of the 37 snaps he's on. So he's kind of like a less snaps, but more quality snaps, I guess, for Billy Kemp. So he's definitely a guy to look at. And then I mentioned earlier, but Grant Mish, the backup tight end, he's only 1K. So if Woods, we get the indication because we still don't have depth charts. The game's about to start and we still don't have depth charts. But if we do and Mish starts, at 1K, shoot. He was targeted 3 times last week. Again, he only caught 1 for 4. But again, in showdown, 1K, he catches 2 or 3 passes for 30 yards. You're probably pretty happy with that. So Mish look his way as well.
Yeah, Mish would probably be my dart play in this game. So he's probably like my sneaky play. And he saw 4 targets last week. So
yeah, for sure. He could be worth a shot. If Woods is out, I think he becomes a cash lock even. And then on the Miami side, Knighton at 4-4, you said, he's kind of an interesting GPP play. And then Miami is I think you can run it back with a Miami pass catcher or 2, and they're pretty spread out. I wrote it up in the article. There was 5 guys really to look at. Charleston Rambo, he's been targeted 36 times, kind of expensive for me. Mike Harley, 25 targets. I like the Keyshawn Smith kid a lot. 17 targets, 12 for 160. He seems like he's going to be like a future stud for you guys. Mallory, who you mentioned is cheap with 12 targets, and then Xavier Restrepo with 12 targets. And Xavier's only 1.6. So another kind of cheap dart play, 12 targets. 9 catches for 155 yards and a touchdown. So he did his damage in the blowout against Alabama, though, and then he did his damage last week against a lesser opponent in Central. So he might be just kind of like a garbage time guy. So don't use him, but he's definitely interesting if you're multi-entering. But Mallory and the Keyshawn Smith kid are the 2 that I probably like the best out of the Miami pass catchers. Do you have an opinion on, I know you said you like Mallory, but is there any of the other receivers you might like or?
The problem with I saw Smith though, Smith didn't have a target the last game. If I'm reading
I was
this
trying
right,
to look into that and see. He didn't get targeted last week, and I don't know how much he actually played in the blowout game. So it didn't look like there was an injury though, unless I missed something.
And he still has a third. Yeah, he still has a third. He's got 5 more targets than Mallory. So I would just be a little bit hesitant on Keyshawn Smith. We have no idea what went on. We got Ramel Brinson there, but he's just a throwaway. No, anything. I still have a gut feeling as Will Mallory. Eventually, Mallory's he's a good tight end. Eventually Mallory's going to come through. Maybe this is the game when King's not playing. They need a security blanket. So I'm still on Mallory at that cheap price.
Makes sense. Yeah. So a pretty condensed showdown. Take a Miami guy, maybe a running back or one of the QBs, and then just load up on those Virginia pass catchers. Core wise, Armstrong and Wicks kind of easy, and then PrizePicks. I just throw out 2 that I like here, and we'll move over to the 3-gamer. Dontavian Wicks over 89.5 receiving yards. Gotta love that. He should hit 100 plus. And then Brendan Armstrong over 30.5 fantasy points. I know it seems a little high, but I think, with the number of passes and touchdowns he'll have today, he should go over, or tomorrow he should go over 30. The rest of them are just kind of all just okay. They have King on there at 22, which if he plays is kind of interesting, but since he's not, we're not sure yet. Probably can't put it in until late. So we'll move over to the 3-gamer now. Pretty solid 3-gamer. There's definitely some stuff to like. Again, another overlap. Don't go too crazy heading into Saturday. You want to make sure you don't blow your bankroll on these smaller slates because a lot of the best plays are going to be 50, 60, 70% owned. Then you'll have to, hope you get some touchdown variance to the positive with your lower owned plays. But the first game on tap, we'll talk about Houston versus Tulsa. Right now, I show a 54.5 over under -5 Tulsa. An interesting game. I have Clayton Tune definitely in play at 6.5 as this slate. To me, the QB pool is very mediocre. So I've been really pounding that drama for running backs, and I've been doing it a lot lately. And I'm dangerously close to doing it again on this one because I know that'll make me different on the short slate. But right now, Clayton Tune, I have penciled in as a solid QB2 option. He's only 6.5. He hasn't really looked that good yet, but going against Tulsa, he should do some damage. I mean, James Blackman, you guys are familiar with that name from his days in ACC, but he threw for 321 and 2 touchdowns against them. Most recently, Spencer Sanders rushed for 62 yards through 2 touchdowns. And even the UC Davis QB, who UC Davis pulled the upset on Tulsa in week 1, Hunter Rodriguez, he threw for over 300 yards and a touchdown against them. So it's not as if this Tulsa defense is going to lock anyone down. They did kind of do a nice job on CJ Stroud, kept him under 200 yards, but you might recall all Ohio State did that game was pounded in with Henderson. He rushed for damn near 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it wasn't as if he really had to throw, although they did a nice job on him. Overall, the Tulsa defense is not going to scare anyone. So I think Tune can definitely nuke this one. 6'5". He's going to throw the ball 30+ times. And the nice thing about Houston is their running game is starting to come together with Alton McCaskill. The first 2 games was non-existent. So they have to, defense has to respect that running game, which is going to open things up for Tune. Nathaniel Dell was really shitty last week. He wasn't targeted that much. He did end up with 3 catches, I think 40 yards in the second half. So expect a bigger game from him. But yeah, I like Tune to do some serious damage here in this game. Tulsa Houston, what do you think? There's plays here. There's bust potential and landmine potential, but definitely some good plays.
I like this Davis Brin kid for Tulsa. Last week he was the American Conference Offensive Player of the Week. But still, he threw for 355, 3 touchdowns against Arkansas State. But I was doing a little research on him before the show, and I think the passing game is Tulsa's biggest asset, of course. They got some really good receivers. They probably their receiving room was probably one of the best receiving rooms in college football. Seriously, something. And there's a bunch of veterans here, but Brin, it's his first year starting. We did see him. We did see him in that crazy comeback game against Tulane last year. We had a huge game. He didn't do great the first couple games this year, but then after he worked out his kinks, he came back and at the first couple games, let me see. He's been scorching defenses. Ohio State, he threw for 428 against Ohio State defense, and then against Arkansas State, I just said he aired it out for 355 yards, 17 completions. Once this kid can kind of solve his interception problems, I think this kid's gonna be a good player. So what's the implied here? What's Tulsa? I saw the damn show now. I'm slate up. Hold on a second. What's Tulsa's implied on the slate here?
I don't have that. I just have the spread on the money in the total. I don't have
So I got Tulsa right now as like the second highest implied on the slate at 29. So yeah, I like this Brin kid. I might end up playing him in cash. I've been kind of lucky on these Friday slates playing some of these quarterbacks, Reynolds kid and shit. But and you get a kid like Brin, and he's coming back with like a loaded. Like I said, this receiving core is loaded, and one of the most experienced receiving cores in college football. You got Sam Crawford, you got Juan Carlos. It's really been playing these guys forever. Juan Carlos Santana. They've been huge contributors to this program since like 2018, 19. They all have 230 yards plus this year. They're all strong route runners. They're all capable deep threats. And then you got Keon Stokes. His status is questionable for Friday night, but I like Stokes too. So I like Davis Brin a lot at 6'7". The problem is, and you got Clayton Tune at 6'5". I kind of like Clint Brin better than Tune. And Tulsa is what, a 4.5 point favorite. And I've always been a Tune guy. I mean, we've won money off Tune over the years. But what's Tune? 70 for 105, 729 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Which that I don't like those interceptions, but Brin's got the same problem. So I like Brin as like me personally as a QB2. Sounds like you like Tune, but I'm actually pushing Brin. And the rushing game is kind of a 1-2 punch. I do like Shamari Brooks. He was out a couple years ago. He had an ACL tear a couple years ago, but he's leading the team 292 yards before games. But then you got Deneric Prince, 289 yards. And Prince is a big freaking kid, 6'1", 214. I mean, he's like a Mack truck out there. So I like Prince. What's Prince's? Brooks is 4'7", Prince is 4'8". Oh, Prince is so I like Prince better. I mean Brooks better. I thought Prince was going to be much cheaper than Brooks. But I don't mind both those running backs. I think are decent. Brooks at 4'7", I think could definitely be a value play on this slate. So, and then these receivers, probably you don't know where he's going to go. My favorite is probably Crawford, but Santana's, a good receiver too. So I'm on the Brin on the Tulsa side. I'm on maybe the main lineup. I'm on Shamari Brooks because of price, and Santana and Sam Crawford on this Tulsa end. I like this Tulsa team, actually. I do.
Yeah. Santana is only 4.2, so good price for him. He's looked pretty good. Stokes been banged up, like you said.
They're not going to win your GPP, these guys, but I think they're solid. They're solid price. Plays at their prices. They're not breaking the bank either. So
definitely. And then Houston side, like I mentioned, McCaskill's really kind of taken over that running game. His price has come up now. He's 5'8", so he's not as appealing there, but still a double-digit, fantasy guy. I think he'll get enough passing work. And then looking over on the Houston side for receivers, Nathaniel Dell, who I mentioned, he was a wreck last week, only 3 for 41, and I was expecting a lot more. So I think he'll bounce back. 6'9" is kind of a tough price. He'll probably be lower owned. So for GPPs, he's definitely in it. If you need a cheapie, on one of my alt lineups on this last Houston slate, I used Christian Tran, and he came through pretty well, 4 for 65, 10.5 fantasy points. He's only 3.7. He's been kind of that he's that big body, tight end type that gets work in the red zone that Tune can rely on. So Tran is kind of maybe one of those less exciting value plays that won't, tank your lineup because you'll still get 2-3 catches and put up 40, 50 yards. So someone to consider there as well.
Oh yeah, I don't mind that.
Right.
That's actually a nice call on Trey in there. But I think Nathaniel Dell is pretty much as close to a core play on the slate because 6'9". I think Nathan Dell is more of like a 7'5" player, and he's been Tune's top target now for a couple of years, and he leads Houston in receptions 25, yards 342, touchdowns 3, but. I like that. I like that Trahan call. That's a nice call there. Trahan at 3.7 because he really has kind of come out as one of Tune's favorites. He's got 14 passing up for 109, like you said. So that's a nice little call there. I didn't think about Trahan before we came into the show here. So I gotta write that down. I think Christian Trahan's a good play, but I think Nathan Dell is close to a core player.
Yeah, with especially if you go with if you're going like cheapy at quarterback or even like the Tune and Brin at QB, you can fit him. I wish Dell was a little cheaper, but when you look at the context of the slate, it's not that bad of a price really. So
compared to the other receivers,
but it's
Dell their most
really
expensive?
a short slate.
He's not actually.
He's third behind Tompkins.
Yeah,
Well, of course, I
Romney.
still really like. And then
Romney.
Romney's always
Right.
expensive, and he's done well. We'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, he's not my favorite to pay for. But yeah, it's not. You're right. And in the context of a small slate, it's not that expensive for Dell, really.
No.
On its own, it looks like it, but it's not. All right, Iowa and Maryland. I do have that right now showing. This is pulled off of DK. Minus 3.5 off of their sports book, 48 over under. So the lower total, we know that's going to be for me. I'm not going to be looking at the core. I never look at Iowa's quarterback. He just doesn't interest me, Petrus. I'll be curious to see if people are going to play, baby Tua Tagovailoa, because he's looked good, but this Iowa matchup is just dreadful. And I don't know that paying $7K for Talia is going to work against this Iowa defense, even at home. They've done a good job shutting down, Purdy, Pinnock struggled, Crum struggled. Who was it last week? They played Colorado State, Sentius, so not elite QBs by any means, but guys who typically perform, especially Crum, and they've shut them down. So I have my reservations about Talia, which means I have my reservations about Maryland's pass catching game, which usually I'm a big Demas guy. I always talk about Demas. 6'6" to me would be very underpriced for Demas, but going against Iowa, this is a very tough spot for him. I know people are going to be Raheem Jarrett because he's only 4'9", and I know optos are going to be forcing him down everyone's throats, and that's fine because it's a good price for him. But again, I don't know if he's going to get more than 2-3 catches for 20 yards against this defense. I'm very leery about using any of these Maryland guys, and that might be my downfall. Now on the Iowa side, I'd like Tyler Goodson. In the middle of writing the slate up, but Goodson's a guy that's just a really strong play. We haven't really used Iowa guys, or I haven't even been talking about Iowa really. But now it's time to really use Goodson. For me, like I said, this QB pool is kind of meh to me. So I think Goodson does represent a strong overall play in all formats. 4.6 YPC, 364 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's been a factor in the passing game. He's caught 10 of his 12 targets for 61 yards. Not a ton of yardage, but he's going to get those catches, PPR points. We love him. And we know Letty Brown banged these guys, this Maryland team, for 3 touchdowns in week 1. It wasn't a ton of yardage, but he kept finding the goal line and scoring. And we know Goodson can do that. And then Josh Mcrae of Illinois, who's the youngster that you talked about a few weeks ago. He only had 8 carries against them, but he banged him for 60 yards and a touchdown. And he got hurt after, but he had only on 8 carries. He just blasted him. So I think this Maryland defense is going to be really soft for Goodson. Violent runners like him do well. And it had the past 2 years against Maryland, they haven't been able to stop runners like him. So I'm wondering if Goodson's going to end up going overlooked because some of the other running backs around him. But I really like him. So for me, I'm probably running Goodson. I'm not looking too much at the passing game of Iowa, even though all their receivers are under 5K. So maybe there's some value there. And then, like I said, Maryland, I know Raheem Jarrett's going to be opto chalk, but on GPP is always like a Demas share. But the Iowa defense kind of scares me. So what are you thinking on this game here?
Well, Maryland's got the lowest implied of the slate at 22 points. And they're only 3.5 point underdogs, but at home. So you usually give 3 points to the home team, so pretty much 6. I don't know. I'm back and forth on this little Tua kid, because if you look at stats, I'm looking at an article from PFF, from Pro Football Focus, and they're saying the little Tua is playing better than anyone in CFB right now, number wise. He's got a grade above 86. He's his first 4 starts. He hasn't recorded a turnover worthy play yet. And he's completed 31 of 41 passes, 384 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And the pick was a ball that kind of bounced off Raheem Jarrett's hands. So it wasn't really a pick, but he's ranking up there. I mean, he's completed 75% of his passes, has 10 touchdown passes to 1 interception. They're 4-0. I mean, right now he tops Big Ten in completion percentage, passing yards, touchdown passes. But like you said, he's got higher passer rating than Malik Cunningham, some of these guys, Emory Jones. But they're facing Iowa, right? So, how good is this Iowa defense? And if you look at it, Iowa, they're only allowing 187 passing yards, which is by far not the best. Tulsa's better, second best. They're only allowing 85 rushing yards, by far the best on the slate. I got this is a tough one on me here because his price is 7.0. I got this Brid kid at 6.7 who I like. And to me, this is kind of like a this is going to tell a lot about little Tua here on this game here. So I think he's a borderline main play. I mean, I like him better than Bonner, but Bonner is getting a little bit of love this week. Jaren Hall is almost $2,000 more. So, I mean, I think Tua's borderline cash play. I mean, just looking at his numbers. So, I mean, I think he's all right. If you have him in main lineup or not, I could see him. I could see people playing him as main lineup. On Goodson. Now I'm looking at numbers like Iowa. It kind of worries me a little bit. I'm a Goodson guy too. We played Goodson a lot last year, right? He had some big games, some big comeback games where first half he did nothing, and by the end of the second half he was winning us money. But these teams right now are stacking the box against Iowa. I mean, aggressively, and then they put 8 players in a line of scrimmage, and all because of Goodson, and the whole effort to stop Goodson. And Iowa was ground game. I mean, it's worked so far. And it was right now they're ranked 12th in the Big Ten rushing yards per game. And I know Goodson's frustrated. I've seen comments he's frustrated, but he's not letting it get to him and all that. Is this Goodson's finally breakout game when let me see Maryland is allowing 103 rushing yards per game, which is kind of like it's not bad. I mean, second best on the slate. It's second best on the slate after Iowa. So, and I'm a Goodson guy. My big decision is this slate is going to be: do you play Goodson or not in cash? It sounds like you like him, but these teams are all focusing on Goodson because it seems like they can't. To me, Goodson may end up being a GPP play, but I guess we'll see how good Maryland's rush defense actually is. But when they're on, I mean,
to me,
they're explosive.
I mean, their yardage has been good, and I think you look at who they played. But like I mentioned, with Letty Brown and even the kid from UC Davis, like they've given up a lot of touchdowns in that red zone. So I think you play Goodson, you're playing him for his touchdown equity, and maybe that's reckless to play that way because he probably won't go for 100 plus yards, but he may score 2 touchdowns and get 60 yards. So I guess you'll have to decide if that's worth it to you or not. Pretty much.
3 of his 5 touchdowns have been of at least 35 yards. And he's had a couple more 20-plus yards too. But that's pretty much – and said I'm a Goodson guy. I'll play Goodson every week. And his price is, 6.8? His price ain't bad, but he's borderline for me. I'm not sure. And then on the other side, we got Kaveon Davis, who really at 6'1", $700 cheaper. He's not Tyler Goodson at all. But Davis really isn't having that bad of a season right now. And they're, let me see, the week 1, I mean, he exploded. I mean, he had 118 rushes, 123 yards, 4 catches for 18 against Howard. I mean, that was a blowout win. I mean, Howard was a blowout win anyways, though. But he had 8 rushes, 8 rushes for 66 yards, which is pretty damn efficient, though. 1 touchdown. They didn't need him. So, I don't know. I mean, Illinois had 122, 18 carries. He did have a big fumble in that Illinois game. So that factors in. But yeah, I mean, he's only $600 cheaper than Goodson. I guess Goodson's a much better play in this game. But Tavon Davis is a decent GPP play.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're making sense that Goodson, I mean, Fleet Davis has been better than him, but you're also looking at opponents, and maybe I'm overrating the Iowa D. I don't know. Maybe Fleet Davis is the play because it's cheaper, but this Iowa D shut down Breece Hall even. So do we think Fleet Davis is better than Breece Hall? I mean, maybe not. I don't know.
One thing I like about Davis though is Davis is he's an excellent pass catcher, and that's one thing that guys like last year with Funk and Anthony McFarland were not. Like Jake Funk and McFarland were not good pass catchers. So that's one thing I like about Fleet Davis is he can catch a patch out of the outfield. I'm seeing the projections here at only like 10. I think I'd look at more like 15 personally, closer to Goodson. Goodson more like probably 17, 18. But Fleet Davis, I think I like him. Not probably cash time type play here, but I do like I'm liking a lot of these Maryland guys, and I guess I like Tool a little bit too. But Goodson, I mean, to me, Goodson's more of a borderline GVP play. Can he play cash? It all depends on his Maryland defense. His Maryland defense is good as they've looked so far. When they're only allowing 84 rushing yards per game, 2.3 yards per carry. No, I'm sorry, that's Iowa. Maryland's allowing 103 though. It's not bad. 3.1 yards per carry, not bad. I mean, it's still second best on the slate beside Iowa. So this game,
yeah,
typical Iowa game, though, right? I mean, how much do we fuck with this game here? I mean.
Good, you're playing. So bottom line, you're playing Goodson for the volume. He's going to get 22 carries, right? And he has 10 catches on the year. So he, similar to Fleet Davis, you just mentioned, he's not getting a lot of yardage. 2 catches, 9 yards, 4 catches, 34 yards. But as I mentioned, those PPR points start to add up. If he gets 3-4 catches, 25 touches, I mean, again, 6'8" isn't really, for the grand context of the slate, isn't that expensive. Maybe on its own it would be, but just like 6'9" for Dell, maybe it's not so bad. But then you have cheapy running back, so it does make sense to fade him, I guess. I don't know. I maybe I need to rethink things, because I personally, I'm not really that worried about Maryland's defense. But you're right, they have been shutting down yards, so that is something to think about. I just know that Letty hammed him up. That kid you like for Illinois scored on him. So yeah. But they shut down Kent State's running game. They played Howard, so that kind of skewed things because they beat Howard 62-0. So you have to start looking at matchups too for some of these guys. But yes, Goodson is not, he's even in blowouts. Somebody in chat just mentioned even blowouts, he's getting like 14 fantasy points. So there's definitely higher upside running backs on the slate. Definitely. This is just a volume play is what you're looking at here with him.
Good call. Byron King said Goodson's not getting, what's Goodson's high for, I don't have it in front of me. Well, I don't know what Goodson's high is. Goodson's not as good as he was last year, it seems like. But once again, I don't think it's Goodson's fault. I think it's the O-line. And like I said, they're totally, I mean, it's early in the season yet, but you can see that they're totally stacking the box. They're placing 7 or 8 players, 8 players near the line of scrimmage to stop Goodson in the Iowa ground game. So obviously they got a lot of respect for Goodson, but can Maryland do that? I guess it comes down to Maryland can. Goodson's got a huge game. You're going to run them.
All right. Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it depends on what you want to do with the game. It's lower scoring. The next game we're going to talk about is going to be the most stackable. So maybe we just get away from it. But if it's a smack 'em, physical game, maybe we do look at the running backs on Maryland and Iowa side. Just really depends on your gut feeling at that point. Pete and I give you guys that info, and then you kind of, do it from there. But yeah, it's going to be an ugly game because the next one here, BYU versus Utah State, is going to be a fun one. 61.5 over under. Right now we show BYU -9 on DK Sportsbook. Utah State, very sour taste in my mouth. They have been able to force opponents prior to Saturday, force their opponents to play their tempo and look good doing it. And they were pushing Boise State early, 4 straight red zone trips in that first quarter, and they came away with 2 turnovers and 0 points. Now, somebody told me, this West Coast teams, when they have to play at 9 in the morning, because that's what it equated to for them, we should have thought of that. And I should have probably, because they're used to playing. They've been playing 2 of their first 3 were night games. Actually, all 3 of their games were night games. So, and it's especially true in college basketball. Some of these West Coast teams, when they have to play at 9 a.m., which is what their body clock tells them, they do play a little shittier. So I don't know how much that had to do with it, but Utah State looked horrible. It wasn't because of Boise State has an amazing defense. I can assure you of that. So I like Utah State guys again in this one. I think the BYU defense is definitely beatable. Looking at Calvin Tyler, maybe with a moot point talking about Fleet Davis and Goodson, maybe we just go right to Calvin Tyler.
Right.
He has looked really good. Back-to-back games over 120 yards. He's getting the volume. He's really the only show in town for them running. He kind of started off just okay. He scored 2 touchdowns and 16, 17 points, but he's really come on. And even in the game, I mean, they lost 27-3. He still rushed 20 times for 126 yards. So they're going to give Tyler his yardage and he's going to work it. And 6'4" is a good price for him. And BYU has given up Not necessarily big yardage totals, but again, you got to kind of look a little further than that. Rashad White and Nathaniel Dell from ASU both had 75 plus and a touchdown against them. Micah Bernard had 120, I think, and a touchdown. And then Jaren Mangum, he had 80 yards, but he banged them for 2 touchdowns too. So again, their yardage is going to look like, oh, BYU's not giving up a lot, but they're giving up touchdowns. The running backs are getting stats against them. 6'4" is certainly not an 8K, and Tyler has the opportunity here to perform like an 8K guy. So I think at the end of the day, Calvin Tyler probably becomes the number 2 running back of the slate, at least for me, right behind Tyler Allgeier, who's the clear number 1. So just kind of throwing that out there. Allgeier at 7-1. He's the cover boy. He's the obvious play. The Aggies are giving up around 200 yards per game on the ground. So all systems go. Allgeier's just kind of beat back Lapina Katoa. You remember 2 years ago, Katoa and Allgeier, they were kind of like neck and neck, and Katoa was actually out carrying him a lot. But now, and even into last year, but now Allgeier's clearly the guy. And if he sees anywhere close to against Utah in week 2, he had 27 carries. If he is anywhere close to that for 30 touches against Utah State, he will blast this slate. The problem is going to be 90% owned. So I'm not going to get into droning on about him too much. The guy's a stud. He's the truth. But Katoa is even in play too. I mean, he's just only 3.8. So if you want to kind of, maybe have a contrarian leverage play or somebody you need cheap, he gets about 10 touches against Utah State. He'll pay off 3.8 also. It's not as if Katoa is just a complete, scrub now. So keep that in mind. Jaren Hall is back for BYU. At least they say he's back. We saw Baylor Romney start the game. It was an undisclosed reason, whatever. Romney looked good, 20 for 25, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, big game for him. So whoever starts this game between Romney and Hall, I'm definitely interested in. For me, I'm probably running Hall. I haven't been that big on him this season, although he has been good. But against Utah State, you got to consider any and all quarterbacks because Utah State's defense is just getting blasted. They're scoring lots of points. They're averaging almost 500 yards a game, but they're giving up almost 500 yards a game. And that's a lot like what Ole Miss did last year when we targeted for and against them. So Jaren Hall to me is in play. He's a dual threat guy. He can, rush for 50, 70, 60, something yards, a touchdown, and then throw for, 250 yards against these guys. So I expect a big game out of him. And I may pay up to almost 9K for him in this spot. You mentioned Bonner's getting some love. I did have a lot of Bonner shares over the weekend, so that was painful for me. He was only like 5'7", 5'6". And he started out really good. Like I said, they had 4 straight red zone trips, but they just came away with no points, and he threw 2 picks there. And then Peasley came on, and that was a wrap. So we have seen, the game against North Dakota, he threw for 390, then followed that up with 253 against Air Force. He's a good player. I think he was got in his head there and made a mistake, and it took him out of the game. So the problem is he's 7-4 now, and that's a rough price. I mean, I would rather play your guy Bryn or go to Toon like I like right now over him. So he would be low owned, definitely worth exposure. And then I always loved Devin Tompkins, but he's 7-3, tough price. I think McGriff, we can go back to McGriff. He really hurt us, or he hurt me last week because I used him at 3.9. He's only 3.8 now. He's still going to be heavily involved in this offense. I think they'll find a lot better time against BYU. It's a later game. They're at home again. The BYU defense is beatable. So I think McGriff at 3.8 is a very good value play at receiver. And then Brandon Bowling, kid from Arkansas State that followed them there, he's always in play as well. So, but BYU pass catchers, I've been staying away from them this year. I don't know about UP. I know Romney's always chalk, and he'll probably be chalky here as well. But, Isaac Rex, he's always that guy that steals touchdowns from everyone. Byu is having a great year. They got the Nakua. The Nakua boys in town there, they're doing a little damage. There's a lot of variance with the BYU pass catchers, so I usually don't like playing them. Dax Milne was a guy we could use last year a lot and feel okay, but what do you think about that, in overall the game, and then especially BYU pass catchers, because some people may want to run a wide receiver with Jaren Hall?
Yeah, this is a tough one. So I guess first of all, I'll hit BYU, and then I'm assuming Jaren Hall's back, right? I like Jaren Hall. He doesn't have that swagger that Zach Wilson had. But this kid's come on and he's proven himself to be his successor, and I think he's to me he's a top quarterback at slate 80, and I think we should be able to fit him in there. So Hall's my top play here. Looking at, I guess, staying with BYU. These receivers are, to me, they're only GPP only. I kind of lean Neil Peo a little bit, I mean, he's the leader of that group. So he may not have the stats of Gunnar Romney. He's not got the hype of a Puka Nacua guy, but he's the leader of the group. And he's consistent. He's steady. He's going to get you numbers at the end of the day. So I lean Neil Byu at 6-3 over Romney, actually, who's actually $1,300 more. So if I'm going to pick anybody, I'm probably going to lean Byu. I like that price actually a lot, 6-3. But Romney, of course, in play. I mean, Romney's Romney, and he had a great week last week, right? His brother had 5 catches, 119 yards, a touchdown. So he had a huge catch there on a one deep play at one point in the game. So, but I would lean Byu. Tyler Algier as a core play at 7-1. He's your top running back. But on the other side, on the Utah State side, the same as you, man, they were frustrating last week. Calvin Tyler, I had him in my main lineup, and he came through. I think he was cheaper than 6-4 last week, if I remember. But he had a really good game. He's averaging 103.5 yards per game. He leads Mountain West. I'll play Calvin Tyler every week if he stays in this range. I do think he definitely was cheaper 6-4. I think it was like 5-3 or something like that. But I love Tyler. I just hoping within a couple weeks he'll be a 7K because he's so talented. But 6-4, I think is put him in play. I think he's even a main lineup play 6-4. Logan, what do we do with Logan Bonner? That's my question. But one thing though, I do see that Blake Anderson did come out and name Bonner 100% his number one quarterback. So what does that take us? I mean, I think Peasley's a better runner. Bonner has put up better passing numbers. Both have done good. But I saw a press conference on Monday where Anderson did clarify that Bonner is a starting quarterback. He's his number one. He said we're going to be a one quarterback system. They both know that. We're going to use Peasley at times, but Logan Bonner's our quarterback. So at 7-4, where does that put Logan Bonner in play with the rest of the quarterbacks? Because I like this Utah State team. I think this Utah State team is a very electric team. I mean, we all know what Devin Tompkins can do. The guy, Devin Tompkins is awesome. I mean, he was at the Biletnikoff Award watch list this week. So, third highest implied. There's Logan Bonner now sitting at 7-4. Is he a better play than Tua? Is he a better play than Clayton Tune? Bonner, to me, I think is ended up being a really good play. I still can be. I'm on Davis Brin this week for some reason. Probably get burned. But I think, to me, Logan Bonner might be my number 3 quarterback this week. Now that I know he's comfortable, he knows he's number one. He doesn't have to worry about Peasley coming in. So I don't. Is Bonner's DVP play? I probably had a being, but I like Davis Brin. But Bonner, I think, is to me, he's like number 3 quarterback on slate. I could be 100% wrong here, but.
I mean, I think he just comes out. It depends on how he comes out because I mean, ended up starting last game, and as long as he starts strong, then he'll maybe hold Peasley off. But I just feel like that's going to be looming over his head, regardless of what the coach might be saying.
So GBP only then. We always had that Peasley factor.
Yeah,
when you got a guy like Devin Tompkins, though, man, Devin Tompkins is so freaking good. I still think that Devin Tompkins is a name most people don't even know. You know what I mean? So he's one of the best.
Still.
He's third in the nation receiving.
The late night slate for the first 2 weeks, and he was like 4% owned for the first 2 weeks, which was amazing. So yeah, people, and they still don't know who he is. Amazingly,
he's third in nation receiving. He's 11th in receptions, 24th in all-purpose yards, 30th in receiving touchdowns with 3. But I mean, I think he's better than guys like Trey McBride, Jalen Cropper. I think he's better than Jalen Cropper. Even Nick Marder, Nick Marder's another Biletnikoff finalist. I think Thompson is better than all these guys. Thompson's a stud.
100%. He's a guy that's typically safe. Last week, like I said, I just think it was an anomaly. I think that offense bounces back. And I like Tompkins. And I like McGriff. McGriff for me at 3.8 just
So
feels like a price that is advantageous for his abilities.
We're just getting targets, but it comes down to it. Do you play Nathaniel Dell, who's $400 cheaper than Tompkins? Is Tompkins something? Is Dell? I think Dell's close to a core play. Or can you get Dell and Tompkins back in the same lineup? I'm not sure. Who are you playing? Nathaniel Dell, or Devin Tompkins in your main lineup?
That's tough, man. Tompkins with the 46 targets certainly appealing. I mean, I guess it depends on if you're going to run Tune or not. I mean, if you're going to roll Mattoon, I think it makes sense. Dale's right behind him with 38 targets. I think you would want to pair those two for correlation. If you're going with Bryn Kid from Tulsa, then maybe go Tompkins, because you don't necessarily need to load Bonner with Tompkins, because Bonner's good. He's a good play, but I feel like it's a little high for him this week to pay over 7K with. I feel like Peasley's still going to get some work potentially. So yeah, I don't mind Dell. I just feels high. I think I would personally rather run Tompkins regardless of my status with Tune, because I am high on Tune this week. But maybe I'm talking a little bit too much because of how bad he played last week. And it wasn't even really his fault. It was the offense in general and Tune in general that weren't very good against Navy, and Navy's defense really, they double teamed him a lot. So he couldn't break free. He's typically a pretty safe play though, but I think Tompkins is the safest of all receivers on the slate at this point.
I think so too. Yep. I agree.
So if I can fit him, yes, I want to play. I think he's going to bounce back. I mean, he struggled for the most part. The offense did. I mean, Tyler ran. That was a good call on your part, but he still had four catches for 60 yards. So, I mean, for him to have a down game and still put up, double-digit fantasy points, that just kind of speaks to how good he really is. So I would love to run him, but I agree with Dell. Dell's in play too, but Tompkins is really my guy. I think there's only been really one slate where I didn't play Tompkins on my main, and it was the Saturday because I couldn't afford him, so I went Butte instead. But yeah, those first two late night slates where he was like 4% owned, he's amazing. So people don't know him yet, they should. And I don't mind running him with McGriff. And at that point, maybe I do need to consider Bonner more, but even Bowling's in play for GPPs. But yeah, to me, I think Tompkins is the best receiver on the slate. And then I think I agree with you on the Tulsa guys. Santana being really cheap. McGriff really cheap, so you have the value to fit these guys if you want it, and Jaren Hall, who I'm glad to hear you say you're on Jaren Hall too. Because I haven't really played Jaren Hall yet this year. It hasn't punished me at all, but I feel like this is going to be a slate where BYU's starting to settle in now. BYU's about to go on the run where they don't lose any games for a while for the next 5 weeks. So Hall's definitely the guy. But I think you can make it happen.
Yeah, I think he's by far the best quarterback on slate. I'm gonna try to make a Hall Bryn lineup. With Bryn being at 6'7", but yeah, I think you need Hall in your main lineup. Hall's by far nobody's even close to him right now.
Yeah, and you can run, and a lot of people have a hang up about running a running back from the same team as your quarterback, but this is really doesn't really matter too much in this type of football, because a lot of running backs do catch passes, but also Utah State's so bad at defending the run that Hall and Tyler could easily run, or Alligator could easily run for 200 plus yards combined. So don't be worried about that.
Both of them in your main lineup.
I'm going to pull up PrizePicks. Do you want to give a core 2 or 3 for this short slate while I pull that up?
Yeah. So I think that's probably very vanilla, but I think Hall. Well, no, maybe not. I'm looking at Hall and Algier. Both of them got to be. I know Nathaniel Dell is popular, but I would probably lean more toward Tompkins. And probably I might get Tyler. Tyler's price did go up, but man, Tyler every week. It's going to be money every week though. But I think to me the top 3 are Tompkins, Hall, and Algier. Some people are going to say Nathaniel Dell, but I like Tompkins better than Dell.
Yeah, I'm not as high, even though I like Tune a lot. I just, for whatever reason, I'm not that high on Dell. I don't know. Maybe there's a little recency bias there, but I don't know. I'm not quite as high. If he's going to be like mega chalk, it really makes me not like him. So I might just go to Tompkins instead. All right, so a couple PrizePicks plays. My favorite in this order, Juan Carlos Santana, who you were just talking about, is 3.5 receptions. I like his over there, especially with Stokes banged up. I think he's good for 4+. Josh Johnson over 72.5 receiving yards. He's got back-to-back over 100 yards. Bryn's been chucking it, settling into the offense, as Pete said. Johnson should hit those receiving yards. I also have Alton McCaskill over 65.5 rushing yards. It really seems like he's kind of, like I said, taken over that running back spot for Houston, pushed Mobile Carr back. Rashaan Henry, the Texas Tech transfer, who was mentioned in chat there, he had 11 carries for 54 against Navy. It looks like he's starting to get more work. He did get 9 carries in the blowout, so I kind of am hesitant to really draw much of anything off of that, but he'll probably get like 8 to 10 carries. But I still think that McCaskill would get there in this matchup against Tulsa, because Tulsa's rush defense has been beatable this year. So I have him, and then the last one that I have, just one more, I'll go through it. You're still looking. Gunnar Romney over 3.5 receptions. Well, I'm not necessarily ever on Romney in DFS. It seems like he is typically the even when Dax Milne was on the team, like Milne would break it, but you'd always see Romney getting like 5 to 7 catches like consistently. So I like him for 5 catches at minimum. So give me that over on 3.5. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow that one raises to 4. So if you're a PrizePicks player, you want to get in on that one early because it's probably too low right now. Is there any? I don't know if you pulled it up or not.
I think. But don't you think Jaren Hall 207 yards is low? Passing
207. Yeah, I think they're going off his game logs too much. It's definitely advantageous. That's a good call because he hasn't really had to throw a ton, even running. But yeah. I think they're going off his logs too much because he had the 198 against was it Arizona, and then like 160, I think, or 150, something like that against Utah. So he's capable of throwing 210 plus yards, though. Yeah, definitely. I would add. That's a good call too. That's a good one to add.
And oh my God, Devin Tompkins over 5.5. I think Devin Tompkins could get 6 receptions.
Yeah, that's a good one. He's just he's so good at getting open. If they play single coverage on him, he just beats his man every time. And you saw it in the game, even though they were starting to struggle there against Boise State. You saw that Boise State's defense isn't what it used to be over the last couple of years. He was beating them quite easily when they had time to throw. But Bonner was making some really erroneous throws, some very, very poor throws. But yes, he's going to get lots of catches.
No,
they don't play stupid again.
I was looking at Neil Pial at 62.5, but if you look at his log, he's only 42, 45, 19, 126. So I'll
yardage for BYU receivers is, I was going to say the BYU receivers yardage is hard to peg. I think, like I said, the receptions for Romney's the only one I'd be comfortable with. But yeah, I'm with Deion Tompkins, and the Hall is a good call out. But my favorite of the group is probably Josh Johnson over 72.5 receiving yards. I think he'll probably hit 100 plus again against this Houston team. And then I feel like I'm really, really high on Juan Carlos Santana. I think the field probably will be too. So I hope he doesn't let me down. But if Stokes is not playing, then it's pretty hard not to get Santana. So another injury to monitor. So make sure you guys are in the premium chat room, premium Discord, premium college Discord, where we're announcing that stuff. I think that's pretty much it for this slate, just the showdown and the mini slate. Expect that article for the 3-gamer to be out later tonight or early morning. Pete's still chugging along on MLB. My Mariners are, I got to talk a lot about baseball because I have been a suffering fan of the Mariners for many years, but they're trying to end the playoff drought. So hopefully they're able to pull out a win today. And I know the Orioles were losing last I checked. So I'm paying attention to more MLB with you while you're finishing out these slates.
And I've become kind of an honorary Mariners fan because they haven't started yet. But the problem is the Red Sox are up 6-0 now. Yankees are down 6-5. I mean, Cole didn't do it today though, but I'd love to see the Yankees. I want to see the Yankees play the Mariners again and get back up from 95. So
if the Blue Jays are going to win, if the Blue Jays win, then the Mariners definitely got to win because that sucks. I was hoping the Orioles could pull it off, but they did one for us yesterday. But yeah, we have a show tomorrow night, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we'll be breaking down that 12-game main slate. So make sure you guys are back checking us out for that. And then Saturday morning, got the pre-lock show. So lots of content still to go. Pete, thank you as always. Any final words you want to throw out there before we head out of there?
No, I mean, tomorrow's a little bit of a shaky showdown. We don't know what's going on with King and all that in the passing and the quarterbacks, but I do like the Friday slate. The Friday slate's interesting. I think we can make some decent laps that won't be chalky. And then tomorrow night, we'll be talking about the Saturday main. So.
Absolutely. So big takeaway is injury news for the showdown, a little bit of injury news with Stokes on the main slate there, for Friday slate, I should say. So just make sure you guys are in that Discord where we're checking Twitter and beat writers and posting updates for you, because we're in a lot of different groups and message boards where we're doing that for you. So thanks, guys, for the continued support. Appreciate it as always. Best of luck, and let's go win some money out there.
Hunter Renfrow hit a bomb. So JD Martinez hit a bomb, so I'm good for DFS. All right.
Sweet.
Peace. Good luck. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी याद तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों का तेरी याद में निहा तेरी यादों